Welcome to yet another super exciting episode of DAFT, Dumb Apple Farmer Talks. Today we're going to be covering a lot of ground. I mean, it's been soggy as hell here. We have had rain. Today is a nice sunny day and we need it for our souls if nothing else. Just about time these Jonagolds started to ripen, we started to have hot, cloudy days, and that's not conducive to good color or to a large extent to good flavor. They taste all right, but they'll be a lot sharper if we can get a few more days like this behind us. And we're getting nights into the 50s now, lower dew points, and that's good for flavor, good for color. We're going to be talking a little bit today about Jonagold, but by extension about breeding apples. And I want to just take a minute to read back to the one of my favorite bits of reading these days. These horticultural journals from the Iowa Horticultural Society. This one is 1896, volume 31, Transactions of the Iowa Horticultural Society. And I am noting this bit by young master Elmer Reeves of Waverly, entitled Old Varieties of Apples. These guys would stand up and give these presentations divided by sections. There was northwest, northeast, southeast, southwest Iowa, and each one would give various presentations. So old Elmer's talking about old varieties of apples, and basically, to set the stage here, you know, I've said this before, the big question was, how do we have winter hardy apples that'll survive these winters, early springs, late falls, winters, and produce apples that are worth eating, right? Apples that'll store well, that'll sell well was the main thing, of course. And they had sort of given up on a lot of the traditional varieties and were going off into, as he describes, foreign lands like Russia to get apples. And here's Elmer's take on this. Farmers long ago learned that horses, cattle, and hogs imported from across the seas were not ideal breeds for this country. Instead of sending to other countries and searching among savage tribes and half-civilized nations for the ideal animal, he went straight away to work, and in a few generations had developed a race suited to its environments. Now, while his method of producing such results was not entirely the result of foresight, but largely through necessity, does it not go to show that the horticulturalist made a mistake and lost valuable time in searching foreign lands? Could we not have developed varieties suited to our environments and of a quality agreeable to the average Americans? We found a few sorts that are, perhaps, hardier than the old ones, but what can we say of the quality? Some of the hardy ones are called good cookers, but who can eat them? Now, Elmer's had a point, and it became a lot more apparent over the years that really what was needed is a regular breeding program, and to that was entrusted, that breeding program was entrusted, of course, to the land-grant colleges, the states like Iowa State University, Michigan State University, Cornell. You know, the land-grant colleges that were entrusted to develop better agricultural and horticultural practices were entrusted to this job. Jonagold is the result of that. So Jonagold was developed, I think it was released in 1953 by Cornell University. This is a fantastic apple, okay? This is a cross between a Jonathan and a Golden Delicious. Big apple, it's what's called a triploid, so it's sterile. It needs a couple of pollinators. Triploids tend to have larger fruit as far as I know, like Spiegold's another one. The vigor is good on Jonagolds. It's pretty straightforward tree to grow, pretty annual cropper. We don't have a lot of problems with it. It eats real good. So its two parents are, of course, high quality apples. Golden Delicious, properly ripened, is just the essence of great apple sweetness. And Jonathan, which properly ripened, is just a fantastic tart apple, bakes well, eats well. So if you bite into a Jonagold, see nice white flesh. This time of year, of course, it's going to be really soft, or really crunchy. But even with less than perfect ripening conditions, this thing eats really good. Really juicy. Nice balance of sweet tart, as you'd expect from a golden crossed with a Jonathan. It's a dang good apple. Developed at the Cornell station as a result of a lot of breed. And I mean, it takes a lot of work to breed an apple because, I mean, of course, nowadays with all the genetic splice, dice, make it nice kind of program, it's maybe a lot less work. But in the days of old, when you had to take and hand pollinate this apple with that apple and then wait for that to produce a seed, and then from the seed you grow a tree and then you assess the results, you might be 8 years before you see any, and they're doing 50, 100,000 of these accessions, and they might get nothing, or they might get lucky, who knows. But with Jonagold, they hit a home run. I mean, it's a damn good apple. And you know, from that same sort of effort, we have a number of other varieties that have developed out of land-grant colleges here in the US, but also out of programs like New Zealand. And I want to talk about a couple other varieties that have come out of the New Zealand program. One in particular, guy that everybody should know about. I mean, he's kind of an apple hero in some ways. This is Professor Kidd was his name, and he's most famous for developing the Gala apple, but he developed a hell of a lot more. He was just obsessed with Cox Orange Pippin and crossing Cox Orange Pippin, a famous English apple, with American and other commercial varieties. And that's how he came up with the Gala and a couple other apples that I'm going to describe in just a sec. These two apples right here are both the direct results of the work of Professor Kidd in New Zealand. They're both crosses of exactly the same parents, and they're quite dramatically different apples as a result. So this one is a Rubinette, this one is a Freiberg. Both crosses between Cox Orange Pippin and a Golden Delicious. This Freiberg has really unique and unusual characteristics. It's an apple that we found very hard to love in the beginning until we learned to work with it a little bit. It likes to drop a lot. We had a hard time figuring out when it was really ripe, and when, you know, because you pick this thing too early, it just doesn't have much flavor at all. But you pick it like right now, that apple to me tastes just about as much like a Bartlett pear as an apple. It's got all of that super saturated sweetness of a really ripe Bartlett pear. You can see it's got brilliant white flesh, but it also goes soft really quick. So it really is a lot like a pear, and I don't know where the hell that came from because there ain't pear in its lineage, but it does have pear characters, and yeah, I mean, it's really good. And some years it can have almost banana notes to it as well, just kind of like a blondie in some ways. Now Rubinette, again, same parents. Look at the difference in color and appearance. It's a different animal altogether. Rubinette is an apple. Number one, it's crunchier than this one. Got a thicker skin than Freiberg. Most importantly to me, it's got a different color flesh. You can see it's more yellowish. This has a lot more Cox Orange Pippin in it. And as a result, anybody that's eaten a nice Cox Orange Pippin on a good year, Cox Orange Pippin changes one year to the next, but this Rubinette is far more consistent, and it has a lot of that flair of a really nice Cox Orange Pippin. It's got citrusy kind of notes. It's definitely sweet, but it's got a tang to it too. It's just a brilliant apple. This is really, really a nice apple. We're pretty excited about this, not least of which because Cox Orange Pippin is not an apple made for the difficulties of Iowa conditions. Okay, I mean, it's just a little, what do I want to say? It needs pampering. You know, the British with their, you know, regular tea breaks and their you know, kind of consistent weather and all that, they can grow this thing, and I guess they can get good results from it. But over here, where, you know, we got 90 one day and 50 the next day, and it's raining or it's shining or it's, you know, the wrath of God damn near every day, Rubinette thrives. It seems to do well in the heat, which is one thing that Cox Orange Pippin does not handle very well. So, same breeding parentage, two very distinctly different apples, and I'm sure there's others too. I don't know them all, of course, but you know, kids' work out of New Zealand has went around the world. It has informed all sorts of breeding programs across the world and in the States as well, and has developed just some remarkable varieties. But man, if you've never had a Cox Orange Pippin or something like a Rubinette or a Freiberg that's related to it, you owe it to yourself to put it on your bucket list, man. Just get out there and do it, because this is some awful fine living. Eating an apple like this on a day like this, what could be better?